Why don't Muslims have a caliph? Have you ever wondered why Muslims, who make up a quarter of the world's population, don't have a caliph, while Orthodox Christians and Armenians have patriarchs, and Catholics have the Pope and the Vatican? For centuries, Europe, led by the Pope, and with the participation of nearly 20 states, launched crusade after crusade against Islamic lands. Through these campaigns, the wealth and advanced civilization of Muslim cities were brought to the West. The enlightenment of the West was built upon the blood and riches of Muslims. Every Ottoman conquest was followed by what seemed like a new crusade. To counter this pressure, Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror, after ending the Byzantine trouble in the East, turned his attention to the Vatican, the source of the Crusader mindset in the West. With the Otranto campaign, he aimed to take control of the papal center. However, Fatih's sudden death prevented this goal from being completed. As stated in the noble hadith, the day of judgment will not come until Allah Almighty allows His believing servants to conquer the city of Rome by saying Tasbih, Takbir, and Subhanallah. Here, the conquest of the city of Rome is announced. And yes, today, the invisible Crusader alliance is still active in Islamic countries. Visibly, it continues in the Iraq invasion and the Israeli-Arab wars. Throughout history, Islam has always had a caliph. Even in times when his power was weak, the loyalty of Muslim leaders to him made the caliph the spiritual protector of the entire Muslim community. Alparslan, who went into the Battle of Manzikert with 15,000 soldiers, won the victory against the 200,000-strong Byzantine army, thanks to 25,000 Kurdish Muslims joining his army at the caliph's call. The gates of Anatolia were opened, and the Ottoman Empire was born in these lands. The Ottoman Caliph was an authority that the West especially feared. When the French occupied Algeria and the Italians occupied Libya, they couldn't oppress the Muslims. Because of the Caliph's power, they couldn't touch Islamic values. Otherwise, those regions which were originally Muslim and then wiped out by genocide would have been completely Christianized, just like modern-day Spain. Even when the British occupied India, Egypt, and Cyprus, they couldn't interfere with Muslim worship. Even though the British had taken control a long time ago, until the 1950s, Mevlid Kandili, a religious day in Cyprus, was celebrated as a public holiday throughout the island for both Muslims and Greeks. Even when Russia occupied Crimea in the late 18th century, Crimean Muslims could freely practice their religion. Their loyalty to the Caliph was openly accepted by Russia. The Ottoman Empire provided protection to the Aceh Muslims in Indonesia, the Muslims of India, and Muslims in Africa and Yemen. Otherwise, Portuguese and Spanish pirates, just like the native people in America, would not have left a single Muslim in these regions and would have Christianized the rest. While it is documented that 95% of the native population, which was about 100 million when America was discovered, was massacred by Spain, Portugal, and other Western countries, what would have been the fate of unprotected Muslims? So what happened after the Caliphate was abolished? More than 200,000 Tatar Muslims living in Crimea were suddenly taken from their homes overnight. On May 18, 1944, they were loaded into cattle cars and deported to Siberia. More than half of them died on the way or in the exile regions. In the same year, Stalin deported 500,000 Chechen and Ingush Muslims in the same way. Nearly 200,000 of them died. Hundreds of thousands of Ahiska Turks were deported from the Caucasus, first to Tajikistan and then to Moldova and Ukraine. Tens of thousands died from illness and starvation. The Soviets suddenly seized everything from the Muslims in Kazakhstan. The nationalized goods were sold to Europe at 1/10 of their price. With the harsh winter approaching, the Kazakhs had nothing left to eat. Since they couldn't eat their own starving babies, they had to give them to their neighbors to eat in order to survive. They also had to eat their neighbors' dead babies to stay alive. Nearly 3 million Kazakh Turks lost their lives. Today, the Kazakh population is 13 million. If that massacre hadn't happened, it could have reached 80 to 100 million. Led by America, approximately 3 million Muslims have been killed in Iraq since 2003. In Syria, since 2011, nearly 3 million Muslims have lost their lives due to bombings supported by Russia and the West, and tens of millions have been displaced. Israel has killed or displaced more than 10 million Palestinians in 70 years. Between 1992 and 1995, the Serbs killed tens of thousands of Bosnian Muslims and displaced more than 2 million. In Myanmar, hundreds of thousands of Rohingya Muslims were massacred in 2017, and approximately 2 million were displaced and sought refuge in Bangladesh. China closed more than 10,000 mosques in East Turkestan and imprisoned nearly 3 million Muslims in what they call camps. Millions are forced to work as slaves in factories for free so that China can compete globally. Women and men have been sterilized. Children were taken to orphanages so they wouldn't learn their culture. Hundreds of thousands were killed and millions were displaced. All of this clearly shows what Muslims face when they are without a leader. Allah Almighty has commanded, "Hold firmly to the rope of Allah altogether and do not become divided." And our Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "There is mercy in unity and torment in division." Today, while every religion and every community in the world has a representative, how sad it is that nearly 2 billion Muslims are left without a caliph. While all disbelief is united, why can't we be united? Today, Muslims face the greatest loneliness they have ever experienced in history. While communities are under oppression, homelands are occupied, children are in orphanages, women are in camps, and cities are erased from maps, the lack of a call breaks hearts. Where is the leader of the Ummah? This era is no longer just about protecting lands, but about protecting identity and faith. An Ummah without a caliph is like a ship without direction. And if we are to rebuild justice, mercy, resistance, and honor, this is only possible with unity and leadership. Every Muslim heart resisting oppression must now ask one question: how will we unite this Ummah again? We will either unite or we will perish one by one.